to me, that's one of the most frustrating things that I see enough of our agents don't do, is they don't really see the value in touring, because sometimes they're so focused on, I'm not prospecting to get the deal, I'm not working with that specific buyer, making the phone calls I need to make. So tell us just what you do as far as tour goes and why you do it and how it helps you.
Well, again, I would say I would only go out and tour if I was you. I mean, obviously, if you have a buyer client, you got to see what's currently in the marketplace in their market segment. But I would only tour like I do if you are a focused area person, because since my geography is all of Mountain View, Los Altos, and the hills, and including condos all the way up to estate type property. I want to be able to talk very articulate about every aspect of those homes, and I happen to have a very good memory about floor plans and things of that nature. And my clients will comment on it. I mean, when I'm doing a listing presentation, presenting comms, many times they'll say, gosh, the other agents really don't seem to know much what's going on with these properties. You can tell they're kind of winging it.
Right.
Like I feel like when I've tried to go list a property in Palo Alto, like, I don't know.
When you were in Pacifica.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know anything about the properties. So, in some ways, it's maybe more a lonely existence on tour, because, I don't go with 3 people in my car. I've done that in the past, and it just slowed me down. I mean, people always think, God, you walk so damn fast on tour. It's because if you want to see 30 to 35 properties, you got to move.
So how many houses will you go see on Friday's Brokers Tour?
At least 30, yeah. I'll see basically everything. I mean, if it's 20, if it's 40, I'll usually make the 40. So I have to plan it out. I mean, it's a process.
You're jamming the whole time, super fast. That's interesting. Very cool. Let me see some of the other questions I had down here. I actually had asked a couple of the agents in here to just make some question requests. What's a day or a week in the life of David Troyer like? What time do you get up, and what do you do, and would you take a day off, and kind of that whole thing?
Yeah, I'm fairly unbalanced, I would say. I mean, like a lot of agents. I mean, it's part of my struggle. I mean, working with Mike Ferry stuff too, trying to set a schedule that I can live by, and I would say it's honestly been very difficult. But recently I've been trying to do more what Tom does, and get up early, and I probably exercise now 5 times a week. But I would you don't want to hear this, but I don't necessarily have a set time to prospect. I mean, I focus. I always have a handful of leads that are people that can list with me in the next 30 days, and I literally spend all my energy just on that pool of people.
Sure. And
then I have my secondary group that could list in the next 6 months, who I'm always trying to find some time to get involved with them. But though, if it's January, I might, email or call them a lot. But if it's March and I have a bunch of listings, I might drop the ball, and they might just fall into oblivion.
Right.
And then I kind of just ebb and flow with the business. I mean, I usually overwork during the first quarter. I mean, sort of between that March and June time frame, and then I just naturally slow down during the summertime. Obviously the kids are out, so because of that too. But I've also come to terms in some sense though in the business, and for people that do a lot of business, I think they understand this, is that you almost have to decide, are you going to always struggle with sort of the divide between business and personal life, or real estate can be all consuming, but in some ways it's it's totally anti a lot of trainers. I've almost sort of embraced that in some sense, and I make it work for me. Because to me, the business, a lot of it is my social life, a lot of it is my intellectual stimulation life, and that doesn't bug me. It doesn't bug me that I work 60, 70 hours a week and just thinking about things, because it's fun. I mean, I still have that kind of passion for it. But we can all critique that in different ways. I mean, we're all still striving for balance, but I'm okay with sort of where I'm at, if you will. I mean, I don't mind working 7 days in a row as long as I'm making the times during the day.
Right.
Because I rarely miss anything with my kids,
right.
Whether it's games or performances or anything of things that are important.
Right.
And that's maybe different. Like where I grew up with a father who was also, I would call a workaholic, like probably I am, but he didn't go to anything.
Right.
So for me, I feel like I'm doing the best that I can under the circumstances that we're all sort of given.
Right. So you talked about you're following up on the most frequently with the people that you think might be willing to list, and it's funny you said list because your mostly focus is on listings, I would assume.
Yeah, probably 80+% of my business is just on the listing side.
And so how do you go about following? So is it just emails and phone calls, and are you how do you do it without making it feel like it's too much, like you're calling them too frequently? Like what are you calling and talking to them about?
Well, again, it kind of goes back to having relevant market information. I'm constantly trying to bring information to them almost as an excuse to make another contact. So, whether that's by email or by phone call.
If you're out on tour, you see something that might be comparable to their house. Hey, I saw something.
Boom, I'm always on the phone.
Right.
As people also know, when I'm on tour, I'm always on the phone. I'm just see something, you remember somebody, just don't wait, just call them right then and there.
That's one of the other things I've always talked a lot about here too. Is I think sometimes the worst place to call people is from your desk. The best place to call people is from your cell phone when you're out on the road, because the reality of it is, I know when somebody calls me from their cell phone, it just seems more genuine.
Right.
Like they really genuinely were thinking about me, as opposed to it wasn't this calculated phone call. So that's kind of interesting. So, what percentage of your business would you say is referrals, past clients versus new business?
Probably referrals, it's not that high. It's probably like 20%. And most of my business is people that know me or have met me through the years. Because again, it's, being focused in one area, I probably do 50 open houses a year. If you've ever been in Los Altos, I put out more signs than anybody else does. Luckily in Los Altos, we can still put out signs.
So tell us about that. So you try to hold about an open house a week almost then, basically. So what kind of your thing is, and so tell us about your open house preparation. How many signs do you put out, and what specifically do you do?
I probably put out about 15 to 20 signs. And I go, what I'm sort of known for, I'll put them up and down Foothills Expressway, regardless of how far it is away.
Right, that's just the main thoroughfare.
It's the main thoroughfare. And, and my sign, Intero sign, if you've ever seen it, just says Troyer is my branding, it's just my name. Honestly, not to critique anybody here, because a lot of you probably have this, I always think it's kind of funny when people shove so much information on that sign with, if their name is long and then they put their phone number. And, personally, I just think from a marketing standpoint, I think that's a waste of marketing space. It's like, we each have our brand, and our name fundamentally is our most important brand. And I just I can't imagine somebody taking a phone number down while they're driving past my sign on Foothills Expressway. I don't think that's important, but because though you spend, again, it's those little things that I think in our business, which I love about, again, going back to my sweat equity concept. Look at sweating, hell, it's the summertime, and I'm sweating putting out all these signs. I do, when business is going well, I do actually hire somebody a lot of times also to put them out for me, but sellers all the time say, God, you always think you're working so hard. And it's because they make assumptions because they see you out there so much.
Right.
So that's a great assumption. That'll work.
So when you put your signs out, just again, if you put your signs out early, do you put them out just like if you're holding an open house from 1:30 to 4:30, do you put them out at 1, or do you put them out at 11, or do you put them out at?
No, I put them out right before.
Okay, just before.
Yeah, just before.